We do have 9 o'clock. I'd like to call the July 18th meeting of the Person County Board of Commissioners to order at this time, and recognize that we do have a quorum. And I'll ask Commissioner Sims to lead us in an invocation, and Commissioner Perrier, our Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for the many blessings you've blessed us with. We ask that you would lead us and guide us as we go forth in our county commissioners meeting and help us to make wise and good decisions for our county. We pray for those servicemen, those law enforcement. We pray for them, pray for their safety. We ask that you just watch over them and keep them safe. We pray for our county and ask that you would, again, bless this county as we go forth. Again, thank you for the many blessings. Lead us and guide us as we go forth. These things we pray in your heavenly name. Amen.
Amen.
Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on our agenda today is discussion and adjustment or approval of the agenda, but I'm requesting there that we add an item to the agenda for the permanent utility easement, as well as a second closed session.
Chairman, I request that second closed session if the board sees fit to discuss some legal matters, confidential legal matters within attorney-client privilege.
Any other discussion or additions or changes? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the adjusted agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes, please.
make a motion that we approve the adjustments to the agenda as proposed.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carried. And item number 1 on our agenda is one that we're happy to do today, and that is a resolution of appreciation for a county retiree. Would you like to come forward, Ms. Petty, and stand at the podium, and we have a resolution for you. If you don't mind, I'll sit right here, but you're the man at the hour. Much envied today by a lot of people, I would say. This reads, resolution of appreciation. Whereas Stephen Petty has served the people of Person County during his tenure working for the Person County Sheriff's Office as a detention shift supervisor. And whereas Stephen Petty has served the citizens of Person County with honor, integrity, sincerity, dedication, providing accurate, concise services for 29 and a half years, January 1993 to June 2022. And with his sick leave, he will retire with 30 years of service with the NC retirement system. And whereas Stephen Petty has earned the respect and admiration of all who know him and worked with him throughout his career, and whereas the County of Person recognizes the many contributions Stephen Petty has made to the county and offers him sincere best wishes for his retirement. Now, therefore, I, Gordon Powell, Chairman of the Person County Board of Commissioners, do hereby extend this resolution of appreciation to Stephen Petty for continually striving to make Roxborough and Person County a better place to live and work, adopted this 18th day of July, 2022. Signed Gordon Powell and attested by Brenda Reeves, clerk to the board. Congratulations, sir.
All right.
I would like to thank God first and thank the county commission, thank Chairman Mr. Gordon Powell and Assistant Person County Sheriff Stuart Jones and all of persons who I work with throughout my career. Truly, it's been a great pleasure along to do so. And I really enjoy myself, and I met a lot of people along the way. A lot of people helped me along the way. I really enjoy doing my job. Truly, it's an honor and privilege to do so. And I pray that the officers up under me that what I've learned, and hopefully I've heard from something that continue and be respectful and treat everybody well, decent, that can't be proud. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chairman.
I would like to say it's hard to replace somebody like this. You see how soft-spoken he is? He hardly ever had a lot of trouble with anybody in the jail, but when he did, y'all look at that thing right there. Everybody explain itself. But he would warn anybody in that same voice that you just heard and hardly ever had any trouble. But like I said, it's hard to replace. And it is a milestone for somebody to retire from the jail. I tell people all the time, if I could hire, and I know I can't, but if I could hire starting at this caliber, even the work ethic that this generation has, that's what we need. He did an outstanding job. And he knows today that his fellow coworkers would like to be here, but he also knows today is one of the busiest days of the month for the detention. This is Superior Court Week, Grand Jury Week is the reason you don't see the rest of his coworkers, because we all love him and going to miss him. Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations again. And I understand the list of things to do at home are already in process by your better half. Thank you again. Appreciate it. At this point in our commissioner meetings, we do have 10 minutes set aside for public comment from our public. And that's a 10-minute segment. If we have more than one, then we'll divide that equally. And Madam Clerk, do we have?
Yes, we do have one person to sign up to speak, Mr. Jim Brooks of Samora.
Take it on 10 minutes.
You do.
I'll try that.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity to come and address the board this morning. My comments this morning are regarding the Preserve Peninsula development that's underway in the county on Hyco Lake. I understand, at least the information I've received, is that developers have kind of hit a pause button. They've done extensive work in putting the road in and clearing a lot of timber, but I've heard that there's a delay in moving to the sales phase of the development. Not sure why. Could be interest rates, could be different elements, but it could be related to waiting for an approval on the 32 additional lot requests, interior lot requests that they have in process. And that, I think, as that unfolds, it has some potential ripple effect in terms of dock permitting and addresses, some of the concerns that the residents have. The scale of this project as proposed really represents a new development threshold for Hyco Lake. I think it's important as this project unfolds and considering developer objectives, certainly defining county goals, that all stakeholders are firmly focused on the lake environmental impacts, lake integrity, and most of all, safety for the lake. County property owners, a lot of the HOAs are concerned and engaged in all of the elements mentioned, but most important is lake safety. At last May's planning and zoning meeting, the developer requested to add these 32 interior lots, non-lakefront lots, 2 to 7 acres. Could be very valuable if they have lake access, not so valuable if they are not granted lake access. And this is in addition to the 162 lot plan that this board's already approved in concept. I don't think any formal plats have been filed yet. I think that comes with the sales phase where they want to try to start selling lots. Despite a large group of residents at the planning and zoning board meeting voicing concern, that board voted 5-0 to recommend allowing this addition to this board. At that developers meeting, which I attended, developers meeting, the planning and zoning meeting, developers commented at that meeting that they plan to request a community dock permitting process. And this includes, which really doesn't have anything to do with the lake authority, but they did comment that they plan to have boat storage on the property, that under the language allowed under PCLA guidelines that were revised in April of 2020, it allows for community multi-slip docks to be built under commercial dock permit construction guidelines. If you read through the fine print, that allows multi-slip docks and the opportunity perhaps for a private boat launch. When you put boat storage, multi-slip docks, and a private ramp, changes the dynamics of that development dramatically in terms of access to the lake. The additional 32 interior lot request, which, you know, I think this board has not formally addressed yet or voted on, is the platform for this community dock strategy. This in addition to the lot size limitations for many of the original 162 planned lots, which challenge the PCLA guidelines for dock permit setbacks, just further fuels the desire and the pursuit of multiple community dock permitting. This concept, if allowed as potentially planned, could add 300+ watercraft to the lake, which is really a formula for disaster. And that is the biggest concern. I mean, there's no way to control access to the lake through a private dock permit. That's why they don't exist today unless somebody has one grandfathered in from the 60s. You know, it's going to need, if it goes as potentially planned, you're going to need 10+ patrol officers on the lake, which Dennis and his crew have expressed some concern over addition of a private boat launch that they have no control over who has access to it or who's pumping boats into the lake at that point. So it's really important, I think, as the developer has paused, to make sure there's good alignment between the Board of Commissioners here as well as Caswell County, the Lake Authority, and the residents. And I would ask and request this board, as you approach this 32 lot decision, which I think, like I said, has a huge ripple effect on the dock permitting strategy for the developers, that you'd be very proactive in announcing meeting dates and times where this is going to be discussed or potentially voted on, because there's a lot of public interest. And again, we understand the progress, you know, that this development brings. Everybody wants to live on the lake like I have for 8 years. And, you know, we understand that. We understand the potential tax revenue that this project represents, especially with potential of the power plant going away down the road. But it's important to really look at every aspect as we move forward, because like I said, this is a threshold that this lake has never seen before in terms of development. I live in the reserve, which is on the south side of that peninsula that the preserve is developing on. Okay. 125 yards from my property line is the biggest cove on that peninsula, and that's potentially where that boat launch would be. And you look at the traffic that can go on there, and it's going to change the dynamics, especially the way these lots are plotted. Not just these 32 interior, but that's really the platform for the community dock. But many of these 162 lots, they're like piano keys. If you look at the diagram, they're less than an acre. They're barely going to allow for setbacks for dock permitting. And when you look at that footprint, it has high potential for a lot of rentals and Airbnbs. You know, I lived in the West Coast for a long time. I went to a little place out in the West called Lake Tahoe. One of the largest property owners on Lake Tahoe, Caesar's Palace Development, coincidentally. I rented a lake house from Caesar's Palace development, rented a boat, got on Lake Tahoe. Nobody asked me if I knew how to drive a boat or anything. Here's the keys. Fortunately, I knew how to do it. And I've owned lake property at Smith Mountain Lake that I sold. So it's important to understand all the elements of what potentially can happen here as we're making decisions. And I know the 162 lots have been conceptually approved, but this 32 lot interior lot addition is the platform for this community dock. And that's where I think we're really opening the floodgates potentially to safety concerns. Lake Tahoe is 100,000 acres. Echo Lake is 3,800 at the most. And so I think we just need to understand, and just by coincidence, 20 minutes from my house, building a $500 million casino in Danville, Virginia. And that has already driven everybody's property values up. The reason I know that, I just got my tax bill from you guys for this year. It's $10,000 because I own 2 lots over there. $10,000. So we got to be careful that we protect this asset. We don't kill the golden goose accidentally, and keep this asset intact as the valuable asset it is for Person County. So I would just again ask the board that you coordinate with the Lake Authority as they address this permitting process. But again, your decision on the 32 interior lots is going to be critical as to how they proceed with dock permitting. So that's all I got to say today, but I thought it was important to address this committee, even though, we may not have it on the agenda yet. But again, as the developers have paused before they move to a sales phase, I think it's important for all of us to work together and make the best decisions in the interest of the lake, understanding the value of that development as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda is item number 2, discussion, adjustment, or approval of the consent agenda as you board members have in your packet. Are there any adjustments or discussion related to the consent agenda?
No, Mr. Chairman, I would just like to thank Catherine for clarifying a funding issue that I had a question on at page 195, and she did so, and I want to thank her for just knowing right away. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other concerns or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried. New business, item number 3 is Foundation Forward Building, Your Charters of Freedom, Dr. David Strader.
Good morning, Mr. Powell.
Good morning.
Chairman, other commissioners, clerk, county attorney. I'd like to take just a moment and say congratulations to my somewhat removed colleague. Thank you for your years of service, and I say that as an old retired probation and parole officer. So, thank you for allowing me to come and talk to you again today about the Charters of Freedom and Foundation Forward. I'd like to spend just a few minutes telling you about who we are, what we do, how we do it, why we do it, and those kind of things. So if I could get the PowerPoint up. Okay, thank you. There we go. First of all, I would like to tell you a little bit about our background. We do not build monuments. The Charters of Freedom are not a monument. They are settings. And the reason so is because a monument pays honor, homage, etc., those kind of things to something that is no longer with us, that was here at one time, such as a battle or a person or whatever. A setting is something that does not carry that connotation or definition. The Charters of Freedom are very much alive and well. So that's the reason we call them a setting or a permanent display as opposed to a monument. Also, you'll notice this says, what are they doing in the Carolinas? I have a cousin who is a state senator in Missouri, and he found out about this project and what I've been working with for the last half a dozen or so years. He says, what are you guys doing in the Carolinas? I said, "Well, what a great phrase." So I've adopted that. Anyway, Ron Lewis usually travels with me, but he was preempted today, so I'm here by myself. Also, I'd like to say we are a secular organization. We are neutral when it comes to politics and to religion. I'm not going to say we are non-religious because we are all believers, but we do not put one before the other. Same thing is true when it comes to politics. Foundation Forward is a nonprofit. Our passion is to build these settings so that every community, every county in North Carolina can enjoy them. Also, our goal is to educate and preserve American history. If you've ever been to the National Archives to not only see the Charters of Freedom, but other things, you'll recognize this building. If you haven't ever been there, I would highly suggest it. It'll be one of the most enlightening things that you could ever do as far as history is concerned. When you do visit the Charters of Freedom, this is the rotunda, and this is what it looks like when you go in. One of the nice things when you go in, once you enter through these bronze gates, there's nothing that says you have to go in a particular order. And there's more things in there than just the Charters of Freedom. You could spend an entire day in here just looking in the rotunda itself. But please notice that the Declaration of Independence is on the left, the Constitution is in the middle, the Bill of Rights is on the right, and that's the consecutive order in which they were created. This is a little bit better look at those. The first page of the Constitution is in the middle. The Bill of Rights, ironically, is the newest of all the documents, but it's in the worst shape. They were not stored in the most advantageous environment, I guess to say, for many years. And so that has paid a detriment to those. Two of our big founding fathers, a lot on education, and I can't stress enough that Foundation Forward is an education organization, nonprofit, 501c3. But Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson were very much important as far as the founding of our country. One of the things that they both shared in common was recognizing the value and importance of education. And to this day, they still carry their legacy in our education system, such as this right here. This is pretty much the system that they came up with, the primary level, the secondary level, and the third level. And if you'll take a look at that, you can see that this is something that is pretty much the way it stands today, especially in the K through 12 system and private schools and what's taught at what level. This all started in Burke County with Vance and Mary Jo Patterson. They were in their early 60s the first time they ever made it to Washington to view the Charters of Freedom. And Vance Patterson especially will tell you how impressed he was with that and the feelings that he got from viewing those documents. Anyway, they were at a public forum back in May of 2012 at the Old County Burke House, historic courthouse, I may add. And they started talking with each other and came up with this epiphany to build the Charters of Freedom. Can we carry that experience to the local community that they had in Washington, D.C.? And because of that, then they set up this nonprofit organization called the Charters of Freedom. Also, not only do we build the Charters of Freedom for communities, and I have left a few education materials here to see. When we get into this project, I would love to meet not only with the local media, but also with the school superintendent, principals, and teachers we have a number of education materials that accompany our setting so that when teachers go there, they can take these materials with them to provide students. And I want to add before I forget, they're all complementary. This entire project nor the education materials cost anyone anything other than Foundation Forward Charters of Freedom. So the scope of the project is we like to build these in communities, especially where there's 24/7 access, that's high visibility, that's very easy for not only the general public, but for veterans and school children to visit these on field trips. It doesn't make any difference if there's not adequate parking for large vehicles such as school buses, because they can always come up and let school children off, and an hour later, hour and a half later, come back and pick them up again. But we do like them to be easily accessible. So when we're building settings, we go back to this picture that I showed you once before of how they're laid out in the National Archives. Again, the Declaration of Independence is on the left, the Constitution is in the middle, the Bill of Rights is on the right. This is our construction process. Vance Patterson is very much a believer in you have to put as much below ground as above ground for something to last. These settings are built or engineered and built and constructed to last 300 to 500 years at a minimum, just with regular routine maintenance from time to time. And by that, I mean things such as simple minor repairs and cleaning. I am currently working with the Scouts in Burke County, North Carolina, with one of the leaders there, and we're coming up with a badge that's already in existence that can be applied to these, to where the local scout troop will take turns as far as troops coming and looking over the setting each month or quarterly, however they want to set it up. And the good thing about the badge they earn, this is one that is required for Eagle Scout and the equivalent in Girl Scouts. So we have those things under control as well. Like I said earlier, they're built to last several centuries. The side pedestals are approximately 4 by 4. The middle display to where the Constitution goes is a rectangle of 4 by 16. After the veneer is put on, then the document trays are put into place, and this is actually what holds the bronze documents that weigh about 60 pounds each. You can see here the bronze document that goes inside, and then we have engineered glass that covers those. This is what a granite setting looks like once it's finished. This one is the first one that was built outside of Washington, D.C. This is at the historic courthouse in Burke County. On the far end of the picture, again, is the Declaration of Independence. The middle is the Constitution, and the one in the picture closest to us is the Bill of Rights. On every setting we build, regardless if it's brick or granite, we put an emblem on the front. And in this emblem, this is one that Vance Patterson commissioned to be drawn and then built. And then, like I said, put on the front of every setting. The stars represent various things as far as the the Charters of Freedom are concerned, such as the 10 amendments in the Bill of Rights. In every setting, we put a vault in the back of it to hold a time capsule. Every time capsule or every setting and every time capsule will be open on the same day in 2087. And I want everybody to know that I'm taking notes of everyone who is here, because in 2087, I'm going to come back and make sure everyone who was here today is there then. So I'm telling you, I'm going to be the one taking the role. But anyway, in all seriousness, we do put a time capsule in the back of every setting. They will be opened on the same day with instructions to reseal it shortly thereafter, to be opened the next 100 years thereafter. So, and just talking about that and things that go in there to this day still sends cold chills that I can literally feel going up my spine right now. So anyway, this gives you an idea sometimes of what we run into, and this is a before and after picture. One of the things I would like for you to look at on the right-hand side picture, you'll see 2 flagpoles. On the left-hand side, you can't even see the flagpoles, but they're there. So this has to do with showing you the aesthetics of what we can do when we build a setting before and after. This is simply an example of a brick setting. This happens to be up in the high mountains in Burnsville, North Carolina. This one is an example of a granite setting. This was the 3rd setting that Foundation Fall were built. This is on Pack Square in Asheville, North Carolina. This is an example of a limestone setting. This one happens to be in Indiana. This is one in Noblesville, Indiana. And this is where I'm going to go. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we have progressed as I go through the rest of this presentation. If you will notice, there's a field there, approximately 6 by 12 feet to where engraved legacy pavers go, and people will have the opportunity to obtain those and put those in front of the setting. And it's okay to walk on those. Also, if you'll notice on each side, beside the field of honor, there are 2 smaller pedestals, and that's where we can put engraved plaques and other things to recognize people who have been a donor or a contributor to the project. This is something like that we're all very proud of. Foundation Forward Charters of Freedom being a progressive organization, and we realize that nothing is stagnant and everything evolves for the good, hopefully. But on the far right, there is a new pedestal that contains the civil rights. That is the 13th, 14th, 15th, 19th, and 24th Amendments to the United States Constitution. And this recognizes those amendments that's very important for everyone in this country from various different perspectives. Like I said, to show that we are progressive and that we recognize and value the importance of the liberties and freedoms that the Civil Rights Amendments have brought to our entire country. This is 2 examples of a typical dedication that we have. Once the setting is complete, we will have about an hour celebration. We will ask all of you all to be here and various people to speak at that setting. Dedication, like I said, it usually lasts for about an hour. And before I forget, about 6 months after the setting is dedicated, and we have time to collect mementos and letters and et cetera, those types of things, we will then have a smaller dedication of putting the artifacts into stainless steel canisters that go into the safe for the time capsule. So it's 2 different processes there. This is simply to show that when we schedule a dedication, as the old saying goes, the show must go on. And there were about 200 people for this dedication, and they were all scrunched up under the tents. So once we decide on a date and decide to go with it, unless it's something that's more of an emergency than just rain, we will go on with the show. This is what it's all about. This is an artist rendition of a students with their teacher in front of the Charters of Freedom talking about this as far as civics and American history is concerned. The picture on the left, that's Ron Lewis, who normally travels with me, but he dresses up and he makes a great Benjamin Franklin, I'll have to admit. So maybe when we do the dedication, I can talk Ron into putting that outfit on, and he loves going around talking to the children as if he really were Dr. Benjamin Franklin. And he has the profile Ben Franklin too, I'll have to admit. On the right-hand side is just another example of the teacher with students there, how they come on an experiential field trip and to learn about the charters of freedom and Foundation Forward. There's approximately 3,143 counties, parishes, districts, et cetera, in the United States. And in the next 8 or 10 years, one of our goals is to put as many settings in as many of those counties as we possibly can. And one of our even closer goals is to put one in every county in North Carolina. This is just a slide that gives an example of some of the things that the Charters of Freedom can be used for once the setting is built and finished. Again, this is a picture of our brand new park right beside our headquarters in Valdez, North Carolina. It's in 2 different parts. The front part of it, you can see is very visible, is the Charters of Freedom with the Civil Rights Amendment. The back side of it is a dedication to veterans. And please come and see this thing. If you've ever been to Disney World or Disneyland, you know how Disney does everything first class. Well, I have to admit, and I'm very proud to say, that this park ranks right up there with the things that you would see at Disney, maybe even more so. So anyway, this is the sequence that we usually go through, which is just things that we could cover later, and hopefully you will accept this project. And if you would ever have any questions, I'll try to answer any you have today. I'm not an expert in all those areas, but Ms. Reeves has my contact information, and I've left some business cards. You can always feel free to call me, email me. I'll be more than happy to assist you in any way that I can. So if you have any questions, I'll try to entertain those that I can right now. Ron Lewis usually accommodates me and by being our facilitator. So anything that I can't answer today, believe me, I will get back with you as soon as possible.
Thank you, Dr. Strader. Questions or comments from board members? Commissioner Puryear and I have heard this presentation once before. Don't know how it actually didn't materialize. I don't recall any opposition to it, but we've had the distinct honor of hearing it once before. So any comments from board members?
Mr. Chair, I think it'd be interesting again to look at this and where would we place this? You know, where would be the location? I think that's obviously one thing I think about. Of course, the cost, you know, what's the cost, if there is a cost for us in the county. And, you know, then we pick out a design, you know, if we get to that stage. They're really nice looking displays. And I can see them being used by students and teachers alike. So in teaching. But,
Oh, absolutely. Not only just the K through 12 system, but homeschoolers, private schools, colleges, universities. I know that there's a couple of well-known colleges just right down the road. I didn't go to any of them, so I won't mention them. I will say that I'm an graduate of Pfeiffer, what's now university, but so go Falcons. But anyway, and you hit on something that I don't think I made very plain. This is a gift to the county. As long as you want a brick setting, the funds are available. All you basically have to do is give us the go ahead. We'll pick out a location that suits all parties, especially so that it's easily visible and accessible and 24/7, and especially for the general public and children and veterans to be able to get to it. And we do build them ADA compliant. Sorry, I do research and write in APA style format. So APA and ADA sometimes are in my brain together. So, but yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I don't think I made that very clear that this is a gift to the county.
Any other thoughts?
Chairman
Mr.
Powell, community, other commissioners, I love the idea of wife being a public school teacher. History, from what I've seen her teach, is kind of sidetracked. Social
Absolutely.
studies now. To me, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, all of this is something that they may brief over. This is in elementary grades. High school and AP courses, they probably delve into it some. But the typical, it's like the groundwork is laid as a student is like 4, 5, 6 years old. If you hadn't got to them by then, you pretty much have lost them. So I love the idea and I love something that's free. I think everybody needs to understand if you're a citizen or if you're incoming citizen of this United States of America, you should understand the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the whole 9 yards of how this country was founded and built, and the Christian attitude or surrounding that we were created under is also not, it's like taboo to talk about it any longer. So as far as I'm concerned, I love the idea. I want to go forward with it. I have did my personal measurements on our courthouse lawn. There is adequate room on both sides of the main entranceway.
And that's one of the,
And I thank you for bringing this presentation.
oh, well, you're more than welcome. And that is one of the places that we like to build the charters of freedom settings.
And it's ADA compliant because the sidewalk goes right up to
Up to it, yeah.
the brick wall.
Gotcha.
Actually, it's a big concrete area out front.
Very good.
And thank you again.
Oh, you're more than welcome. It was my honor and my pleasure to be here. So,
Comments?
Yes, I'd like to thank you very much. I learned about this project probably the first part of the year and got some information. And I thought it was fantastic that it was brought to the chairman here in Person County to bring it forward. My understanding is that the foundation provides for the settings, but you also have request a committee of residents or citizens to participate, and also if there's some additional fundraising that the community is welcome to do so. Yeah.
yes, we're always open to donations.
Okay,
I would like to also say that we have never used any taxpayer dollars. I'm not going to go as far to say we never will, but thus far we have not. But yes, if an individual or any group would like to make a donation, we don't know what the word no is.
so any type of fundraising, whether it would be, say, civic organizations or chambers or Rotary, any civic organization that wanted to host a fundraising effort to enhance this, to help it along,
Yes,
is acceptable.
yes,
Okay.
absolutely. And we do appreciate that. And again, I appreciate you making those comments and reminding me of one other thing. It's not that far of a drive. So I or Ron Lewis or both of us, we're more than willing to come back here. If you know any type of organization, civic or otherwise, veterans, whatever, we will give them a very similar presentation as to what I have provided today. And so please feel free to reach out to us. That's one of our job duties. And I have to say, I enjoy getting out and going places and doing things and meeting people and doing these presentations.
Thank
So,
you. Well, Mr. Chairman, I think we should put an all call out to the community. Thank you so
That'd be
much.
gr-
Thank you.
That'd be very, very good. As I said earlier, we've heard this before. I really like the concept. History is extremely important to us, especially when it comes to items like our Constitution, Bill of Rights, and those documents that we enjoy the freedom of today. And I think our children, even our adults, need reminding of these important documents. And this is a first-class installation of these documents for public view. I really do like the concept, and I don't know that I would be here. Hopefully I will for the opening of the vault again to see what we put in there.
Well, like I said, I'm taking roll, and if you're not there, I take, as a teacher,
You'll take my proxy, huh?
well, I'll take 5 points off of your,
Okay.
off of your grade.
All right,
So,
but,
if you're not there, for whatever reason.
okay,
So-
but we do thank you for coming and,
Thank you.
and the materials that you gave us. And again, each and every one of those are first class, well done. And I'm sure the public, and especially our younger people, enjoy it. I don't know how we actually proceed at this point. We would need some additional steps and guidance, but if it's general feeling or consensus of the board that that we move forward with the possibility of getting this done, I mean, we can take it that way. We
Mr.
don't.
Chairman, I
Go ahead.
agree.
Mr.
Yeah, I was
Fraser.
just gonna ask, what are the next steps?
Well, the big next step is once after you agree that you want to do this, then the next step would then be to decide on the location, to make sure everything's in place there. Then the step after that, because it's one of the blanks, is a letter of agreement or a letter of understanding, an LOI or LOU. That spells all these things out, where the location is, the address, those kind of things. Vance Patterson would sign it, then we would forward it to y'all for the appropriate signatures on this end. Then as time and materials, labor are there, we would decide on a starting date to build that. The good thing about this area is I don't think there's many days during the winter months that construction cannot proceed. Not being an engineer by any means, I think in this area of North Carolina especially, that concrete and brick can be laid many days throughout the winter. So that's a benefit as far as that's concerned. So,
Yeah. Well, those that know Person County know you when you get into February and March. A lot of that is an unknown, but not a problem. But so the location, letter of understanding, and a start date are three
yeah,
important
those kind
things
of
that
things.
will.
And most of that stuff is spelled out on the letter of intent. If
Mhm.
not, then we at least keep in contact with each other so that everybody is up to date on what the status is. And again, if I can come back and give a presentation to any other groups, or if y'all would like me to come back here again, I know this is the second time you're probably getting bored with seeing me
No.
every several years, but I'll be more than happy to do what I can.
It's very important. We're not bored with it at all. Appreciate you being here and your time.
Well, I
Any other
appreciate your time,
comments,
so.
board members?
No, Mr. Chairman, I would
Go
like
ahead.
to make a motion that we move forward with selecting a location and entering into a letter of agreement to begin the process.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any questions? All in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No, motion carried. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I will let everyone back at our office know that you have accepted our offer. And I will get with Mr. Lewis as soon as he gets back in literally a day or two and start getting the letter of intent together. Okay, and back to y'all. And I appreciate your time very much.
And you'll be in touch with our interim manager and clerk.
Okay,
Is that-
sounds
is that
great.
right? Okay,
So if I could get a card, I would appreciate it. And I left some cards with Miss Reeves as well for me, so.
yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Again, feel free to contact me if you like.
Item number 4 on our agenda is fire service agreement between Person County and Leesburg Volunteer Fire Department. Fire Marshal Morris.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me the time to begin to speak with you. So back when I started this position, I knew that Person County had several areas that were ISO rating 10 on the map, which means no fire protection benefits to the homeowners. A lot of this area is on the western side of Person County in the area of Leesburg Road. As I made my way around the county to meet with all the volunteer fire departments and rescue squads to see the needs and the goals moving forward, a couple of members of the Hurdle Mills Volunteer Fire Department asked about this area as well as Lake Roxborough, which serves Person and Caswell County. So there were some talks of this last year, even a brief meeting. I believe Chairman Powell and Commissioner Sims went to Leesburg on this, but nothing was ever come forward with anything from that. So I reached out to Caswell County, their fire marshal and their communications director in reference to a potential automatic aid agreement with the Leesburg Volunteer Fire Department. This was the beginning of the process, including several phone calls and meetings with all parties, including the staff of North Carolina Office of State Fire Marshal to ensure the proper and correct way of conducting this process. So there's two different ways we can do this. This is the simplest, easiest way by agreeing to the paperwork, which I have before you in your agenda packet, which is pretty much just an agreement and making a modification to the map and the communication plan. The second way is a little bit more detailed. It's tougher to include the departments giving up their district, redrawing the district lines, which means getting approval from you all as approval on the maps, and then adding in the tax values for that district. So Leesburg Volunteer Fire Department added a second station at 9798 Ridgeville Road, which is right off Leesburg Road. Once you go into Caswell County where the post office is, you take a left, it's right there behind it. So roughly 3/4 of a mile from Person County. That became a certified station last year. They have agreed to an automatic aid agreement to help the ISO classification 10 on the western side of the county. So these properties are not located within 6 miles of a fire department in Person County, but would fall under their fire department. So those homeowners will go from a 10 to a 9. The properties that are within 5 miles of Leesburg Fire Department would benefit from their ISO rating, which is a 6. So they're going to go from a 10 to a 6. So I got GIS to run the stats on that. So roughly 200 homeowners are going to benefit from the 5-mile district. So they're going to go from a 10 down to a 6. On the 6-mile district, 88 more are going to benefit. So we're looking at 288 homeowners are going to benefit from this process. Unfortunately, there'll still be about 50 homeowners in this area that's not going to be part of this. So the only way to fix that is to build another fire station somewhere in that area. Some of them are only going to be away by 1/10 of a mile. So I wish we could pick the station up and move it 1/10. We would pick up a few more, but that's not going to happen as well. So as you can see on the map provided with you, the dark and light blue shaded areas kind of show you where the 5-mile district would be and where the 6-mile would be. So homeowners in Hurdle Mills, Cepho, and the city of Roxborough, which is the PC1 area, will benefit from this. Leesburg is not taking any of the district or answering the full calls. They're just going to agree to respond to structure fires and automatic fire alarms, is which ISO looks at. So Person County currently has a 4-department response on structure fires. So Leesburg will be added to that. Some areas they already are. So then that would make it, we have 5 departments responding to a call, which is a great improvement. Person County would also provide Leesburg with 4 portable radios and 1 mobile radio that was returned from Woodsdale dissolving. Currently, Caswell County is on a different radio system. They're looking to upgrade in the next, maybe by the end of this year into next year. So until they get to that point, we're going to loan them some radios. Once they get those, then they'll give them back to us. So to conclude, I'm asking for approval on the proposal for the funding for Leesburg Volunteer Fire Department to support the automatic aid agreement in a monetary value of $10,000. Their board of directors, their board met back with us. This was the number that came up between both parties. This will be a reoccurring item that will be paid out of the fire district fund and will be each year per the contract agreement, which you see enclosed in the packet. The agreement has been approved by the OSFM as well as the county attorney to make sure everything has been approved. Once y'all approve it, then I'll get the required signatures, submit it back to OSFM. They will send it to ISO. So by the end of the year, first of next year, all these homeowners should start to see their benefit from that. So thank you for your time. When you have any questions, there is one change that was made after attorney looked at the paperwork, which you have in front of you, and I'll kind of let him explain that process.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, there, if you look in your agenda package under this agenda item, there are 2 proposed agreements. The first one needed a little bit of remedial work. Chief Morrison and I talked about this in a template, but I didn't see the final version of it until the agenda package appeared. Technically, that first agreement that appears does not need your approval, the board approval, because Person County is not a party to it, even though the title said Person County is a party. It is not. So I put at your place this morning a revised version of that first agreement The title no longer says that Person County is a party. It's an agreement between several fire departments and the city of Roxborough, not Person County. So what I put at your place is just for your information. You can put that aside. The second agreement I have reviewed and looks fine to me, and we recommend that for the board's approval.
You in agreement there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Because the first one was based off of OSFM, so they had just one department. So instead of getting one department, so we had to get 3 different signatures. We could combine them all into one, so all the departments could sign the first, which is what he revised on that. The second will be a mini contract, which the fire departments here and the rescue squad now have a contract they submit back in. This is a smaller version of that, making sure that they're gonna do certain items as well, if we hold them accountable for that. Y'all have any
Questions, Fire Marshal Morris from board members?
Chairman Powell,
Yes, sir.
what are, or are there any legalities that exist in crossing county lines with our equipment in regards to Caswell County? I mean,
So we have a mutual aid contract
Mutual
between
aid.
counties, and I'm in the process, we already had that, so I'm in the process of updating that. So as long as both parties have assigned that, they can cross county lines, even state lines with that. Either way.
that's all I'm concerned about.
Mr. Chairman, commissioners, add to that, all of these volunteer fire departments, remember, are non-governmental entities, they're nonprofit corporations. They certainly have the authority among themselves to contract to provide service in different areas with blessing of the North Carolina Department of Insurance and the fire protection folks who are experts there. City of Roxborough, as a governmental unit, obviously has authorities, good statutory authority, to enter into all kinds of intergovernmental agreements, including mutual aid agreements. So all that is proper and authorized by law.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Andy, I'd like to say thank you for continually addressing these OSI ratings. I am a recipient of the benefit of what the fire department has done in bringing those down. It's phenomenal for the residents, and I can't thank you enough for continuing to do that. That's so important, and I'm truly in support of the fire departments.
So we'll have roughly 50 to 60 in this area, and then we still have a couple areas out in Maho Lake next to Granville County. But unfortunately, unless, down the road, we have to look at possibly adding another station, a third station, to get everybody fully
It
covered.
is what it is. We need to, this is a primary.
This is the
function.
largest area right here.
This is one of the primary functions of the county government, is its fire protection. So I want to thank you very much for the efforts. Keep it up. Appreciate it very much.
Others? I would like to say, Mr. Morris, as well, thank you for your efforts to improve safety for our citizens in Person County. And as we've stated earlier, as evidenced by our decisions in support of public safety, and we continue to do that. And this is another step forward, not only for the safety, which is number one, but also the lowering of the ISO ratings, which benefit the homeowners in their tax bill. So again, commend you and the volunteers and the others on your staff that had input in this. Any other comments? Here none. Do we have a motion regarding the agreement as presented here?
Mr. Chair, I make the motion that we approve the fire service agreement with the Leesburg Volunteer Fire Department to provide automatic aid to Person County at the agreed upon $10,000 per year.
We do have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carried.
Thank you.
Item number 5 is addendum to the rescue service contract for Roxborough Person County Rescue Squad. Mr. Morris again.
So thank you again. So prior to me starting this position, there've been some talks between the Roxborough Person County Rescue Squad officer and some of the Person County administrative staff in regards to obtaining additional money for their organization. So after I started in my position, I was tasked with finding out some more of this information and reporting back to the assistant and county manager on this. I did report back in April and was asked to add a brief overview of this in your presentation of the fire tax proposal on May the 2nd. It was later suggested that we go ahead and just wait when we did the Leesburg presentation, do this one at the same time. That way all the budget process was over and wouldn't be too much on your plate. So when the fire tax was implemented, Roxborough Person County Rescue was just given a straight dollar amount because they don't have a district. So that was a $75,000 and they would receive a 2% increase every contract year. So back in 2020, the Board of Commissioners established a process to reward the fire departments on their efforts to lower the ISO rating for the county's rural fire districts. This was done by awarding the reoccurring $7,500 from the fire tax district fund for each ISO point that was lowered. The reduced ISO fire ratings demonstrated an improvement of how well the fire departments can protect the community, which in return results in the savings to the county residents on their homeowners insurance. Likewise, additional rescue certifications demonstrated an improvement on how well the rescue squad is prepared to respond to emergencies throughout the county. Unfortunately, the additional rescue certifications do not impact the homeowners insurance. The rescue squad does not fall under ISO standards like the volunteer fire departments do, but they do follow the North Carolina Rescue Commission standards, which was in the agenda packet. There's 18 different ones that you can obtain. They are responsible for obtaining their technical rescue training, which consists of 9 different blocks of 528 hours. Some of these members either have spent 192 hours as an EMT or either 80 hours in the medical responder certification. And they have to keep the continuing education of 24 hours up every year. This organization has been in service for over 5 decades, and they do not have one district like the volunteer fire departments have. They serve the entire county as well as the city of Roxborough. They provide rescue and extrication services of motor vehicle accidents with people trapped or pinned in. Any type of rescue and entrapment, whether it be in an industry or a residential setting, drownings. Person County has 4 lakes, so they're ones that have the boats to go out to respond to that. In any type of extended falls in the wilderness. So PCC has a nature trail. There's been calls that we've been over there, Hager's Mountain, people go hiking, hunting accidents, anything that goes along with that. And they serve as a support service through the fire departments on any structure fire for rehab and filling air bottles. Since January 2022, Roxborough Person County Rescue has been dispatched to 209 calls for service. Speaking with their officer staff, it is possible to attain 1 or 2 additional certifications over the next 5 to 10 years, but more equipment and certified personnel is going to determine that. So compared with the volunteer fire departments, the equipment list has some of the same items on it as the ISO, but it goes into more detail because you're getting into more detailed types of rescue. One of the key components is it takes 8 certified members to keep the certification up. If one of those members decides to move or go somewhere else, then they lose that. So the volunteer fire departments have to have 15 for one station, 19 for 2. So you kind of have a little bit of more flexibility. With the rescue squad only having to have 8, they got to have more people. They got to make sure they're committed to that certification. They currently have 25 and 11 of those are holding these special certifications. Person County Rescue Squad and their members want to stay competitive with the rising cost of equipment and operations while striving to provide the best services to all of Person County. They are starting to need to update some of their equipment as well as the boats that they have. So the proposal was discussed and talked about at the previous Person County Chiefs Association meeting back in June. In that meeting, a motion was made and voted on by all the members of the fire departments to support this. And the certification pays like the ISO is at the $7,500 per certification. So in fiscal year 22, Person County Rescue was paid out of the fire tax fund $78,030 for their services. This included the 2% increase, which was $1,530. Now that doesn't even cover the fuel bill the way the fuel has gone up. So with the rising costs, they currently have 2 certifications and potentially being awarded the $7,500 per certification. This will give them an additional $15,000, which will bring their yearly total to $93,030. So to conclude, I would like to ask you all to consider this proposal. The additional $15,000 for the 2 rescue certification, which is the medium rescue and medical responder certification, just like the volunteer fire departments maintaining their ISO. If they fall below the requirements, then the money will no longer be awarded to them. I will be responsible for policing that each year when they submit their paperwork in, so to make sure that they're keeping that up to date. This money will come from the fire district fund tax under the unallocated line. And with this one's a little bit different because the rest of the addendums have had the county manager sign it. So with this, we'll get your approval on this, but then you would have to give approval to Mr. Clark to make the signature on the paperwork. Do I have any questions?
Mr. Morris, maybe one question or correction for me. It's not budgeted, but it would come out of the fire tax.
Yeah, so under
Monies.
the fire tax funds, the unallocated line, there's money there. So then all we have to do is just move it from that to here. So we don't have to take anything out of general fund anywhere else. There's already some funds there. Just like the ISO bonus points for the remaining 3 departments. This was already brought up and kind of put to the side. So when they come about, the money was already there.
So, Mr. Chairman, the funds were their rainy day portion of the funding?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Well, as I see it, as you've explained, I think it's all about safety, but it's from a different perspective that they work with a different tooling, different equipment, different training, which all of that is important. That kind of another piece of the puzzle of safety in Person County. Would you kind of agree with that, I
Yes, sir.
guess?
One of the examples they showed, technical rescue is more than what a firefighter has to get. There's about the same amount of hours, but just example, all the storms that come across the west, if a tornado worst case scenario come through here, we don't have the trained personnel here to do that. We're gonna have to reach to outside sources. So with them getting some additional funding that can get additional equipment, potentially we could start building that training program up here, working with the volunteer departments to grab some people in so we could kind of be prepared for that worst case scenario.
Mr. Chairman, I have one quick question too.
Yes, please.
The certifications for the rescue, you say they don't affect the insurance companies. Is there any movement or push to change that? Working with the insurance, I mean, is there a window someplace that we can get through and say, look, all these certifications should help somewhere?
So it would, as far as the homeowners is not, because of the ISO is gonna be looking at that as far as the fire protection, because your main goal is the fire. Now, they could potentially look at far as industrial settings, far as safety and workplace accidents, because they will be called in far as that goes too. So if we could help something along that lines, that could be some potential savings back, maybe on the
Where are your
industrial side.
lobbyists?
Mhm.
Where are your lobbyists?
That'd be something I could get some more research and
Yeah,
see
so it
what
would help
else
maybe on the industrial commercial side that way, but there's no avenue, okay,
as of right now, there's not.
okay.
Commissioner Palmer?
Chairman Powell, please, thank you. Mine went blank for a second there. Is this in relation to the overturn that we're experiencing currently through the EMS rescue squads? Because we've lost several
So with rescue
employees
squad
this year alone.
being just strictly volunteer, they are looking to help EMS sit down and maybe discuss with the emergency services director or potentially being able to help the fire
So they could
departments
step
respond
up
out.
into this role.
Because they're strictly volunteer, just like a volunteer department.
I like it.
Mr. Chair, this was not a budgeted item from our previous session, but going forward, it will be then added to our budget as we go into 23, 24. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
With the understanding that they maintain those certifications if they fall behind, just
Oh,
like
yeah.
the VFDs, if they fall or lose that point, and it's
Well,
gonna
it
come
could go
back.
up or it could go down. So, I mean, I hope it doesn't go down, but I mean, as you said, there's 16 other certifications out there.
And
I
those
know
are
we're
gonna
not
be a whole-
pursuing all of them.
No, there's
But
gonna
I'm
be a
just
whole lot
saying-
more detailed and more equipment, so no, sir.
Chairman and Commissioners, on that point, the handling of the money, bear in mind that this agreement on its face contains one of the things that the North Carolina Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act requires, namely the pre-audit certification by the finance officer when she signs it. She is certifying on your behalf that there are funds budgeted for the purpose and that there are unencumbered funds remaining from that appropriation to cover the county's obligation.
Board member, questions, anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve the request.
Have a motion on the floor for approval of the request. Any further questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carried. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your efforts.
Thank you again.
Item number 6 on our agenda is 2021 tax collector settlement. Mr. Jones? Morning, sir.
I'm here this morning to present the 2021 tax collector settlement. And first of all, I'll talk about what is a tax collector settlement. And make this thing work. So the tax collector settlement is actually required by North Carolina General Statutes 105-373. It's a settlement to show what the tax office did with their requirement to collect taxes in the last 12 months. This is the year to start in July 1 through June 30. And a couple of things to think about the tax collector settlement. This is not results of just my work, but other staff in the office. With 2021 being a reappraisal year, reappraisal year is always the more challenging to collect. You think about the tax bills are changing, people's budget for paying taxes changes, people's house payment will change because of the taxes. So the collector settlement starts with the appraisers for real estate, the business property, personal property, even your land records manager who controls who the tax bill gets to go to. So me along with my other 9 staff work all year long to collect taxes. And this is the report showing what we're able to do. And of course, what we're not able to take care of. It's a little bit hard to read on screen. So I broke this down in several categories. One is the real and personal property, public service, which is your state appraised properties, and then your motor vehicles, which goes through your tag office. And I've got 3 different collection rates there for you. 98.15 for real and personal property, 100% for your state appraised, which is normal, and a 99.96% collection rate for DMV. When I look at this report, a couple of things I want to point out is the uncollected real personal property taxes for 2021 was right at 525,000. And if you have tracked past years, you would recognize that number being quite a bit higher than we ended last June. And there's a reason for that. We always budget our collection rate at a very conservative rate. We budget 97.5%. And we do that because a year out, when we're setting the budget June 30 for next June 30, we don't know what the economy is going to do, what every taxpayer is going to be able to do. We had a large bankruptcy this year. The 7th largest taxpayer in the county entered into Chapter 11 agreement, which is good because it's a quick turnaround. However, it doesn't normally close out in a year. So the 7th largest taxpayer who wasn't able to pay taxes because the court order said not to, cost us about 0.75%. So that tax bill ended up being $298,032. We could not collect, that they could not pay. So that collection rate is actually down. Happy to report that 2 weeks after the close of the year, mid-July, taxpayer came in and paid that tax bill. The court finally released it, was settled as a Chapter 11, turns around very fast. It wasn't anything to do with taxes or being insolvent, it's just a contractual deal they were working on. So 298,000 of that 525 has already been collected. Normally, we're going to collect about 55-60% of the 525,000. That represents 56% of what we left on the table already collected today. So that really does make a difference in our collection rate. Another thing to point out on the state appraised, we can talk about the coal plants lately. They paid basically $6.25 million of taxes. So that's 6.7, 6.25 is due progress. Gives you some idea where we're going to be heading down the road. So I add those 3 collection rates together, and it's actually, they're weighted. I come up with 98.63. That's the worst collection rate we've had since 2014. 2014 was 98.55. However, it was strictly due to that one large bankruptcy. It was out of our control. When I add the bankruptcy back in, so we always look at what would happen if no one was in bankruptcy. We would have the best collection rate ever. We would beat last year, which was the best year ever. That would have brought us to 99.39, and that's where we are today. But it's 2 weeks later, so it doesn't count. So just give you some idea what happens when you're looking at taxes and why you have to be conservative on your collection rate. This is a good example. That's the number 7 largest taxpayer. Has been another one, we probably wouldn't have made budget. So it's very important to be conservative there. I probably drove that point home pretty well.
So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and to interrupt Russell for just a minute, Russell knows what I'm about to say, but back to that Budget and Fiscal Control Act, it requires that the county manager in developing the next year's budget cannot use a presumptive property tax collection rate higher than that actually realized in the previous year. So that's going to be probably a relatively small constraint in projecting revenues for next year's budget.
It should not be a constraint because we were conservative and always have been. We budgeted 97.5 last year and this year. And the layman's terms of which you described, Mr. Attorney, was you cannot budget for more than you enjoyed on the collection rate the past year. So we can still budget for 97.5. My point is let's don't push that too hard because it becomes a nightmare if you have a bad economy, a recession, who knows what happens next. So we gotta be careful there. But we could have reported 99.39. I reached out to other counties. The local government commission publishes everyone's rates and their account for other counties is not available right now. Of course, my colleagues are doing the same thing I'm doing today or this month. But based on the most recent rates I could find, our peer rating, we're number 4 in our peer size, our 25 to 50,000 population, even with the 98.63 that we reported. And then statewide, we would be, the statewide average is 98.83, not the 98.63. So we're below the state average just because of timing that one big check. Compare the 5 years, you can see, like I described a second ago, that's our collection rate's down. But we've gone from a collection rate of 98.37, 98.43, 98.53, 98.08, 98.15. That's real personal, but all combined. Next slide makes more sense. All combined, that's where the rates have been with the average rate of 5 years of 98.91, definitely above the 97.5 you're budgeting for. We're still safe there. And how do we get that collection rate? We do all kinds of fun things. Over 90% of the taxpayers pay on time with no persuasion. We have a great group of taxpayers there. We send out tax bills, and the first people that show up are normally senior citizens on fixed income. They either pay it right away or they've already making payments all year long. Because advertising is something that all counties use, we actually required by law. You would think that putting your name in the paper would not make you pay your taxes. But as soon as tax bills go out, which most of y'all probably receive over the weekend, we have a lot of phone calls on not when do I need to pay this. They want to know when must I pay so my name is not in the paper. And that really is an odd thing to say, but that people really are worried about their name in the paper. So that's a great collection tool. And the week before, we will send out notices saying your taxes weren't paid because sometimes your banks mess up and they don't pay the right bill or whatever. But just before that deadline to put your name in the paper goes out, we have a big influx of money. People want the name not in the paper, want taxes paid. Garnishment's the next tool we use. We try to go down the list and try to make it the least damaging, least hurtful to the taxpayer to get it collected. Garnishment, we're going to take 10% of your gross wages. We can find where you're working, and we use employment security to track you. It gives us 10% of your paycheck. So one day we send out all the certified letters, and my office send out 1,030 garnishments in one afternoon. If you ever done a certified letter, you can imagine how much work that is, but they send out over 1,000 in one day. Automation helps a lot with that, but we do that. Bank attachments, we end up attaching bank accounts. We did 209 this year. A bank attachment is more harsh than a garnishment. They're going to freeze your account. They're going to take everything that they can to pay us. If that means your checks in limbo bounce, that's between you and the bank. Of course, you got notice, you got a certified letter, you knew this was going to happen. It's not something that should surprise you. We also use this cheats, which is also known as NC cash. So if you have money that could not be returned to you because they couldn't find you, or we find a lot of dead people that money is left behind, we grab that money to pay your taxes. That's a great source. It's It's not a whole lot of money, but you'd be surprised sometimes. Debt set off, you're more than $50, or you get a tax refund. Or if you actually win the lottery, and it's more than $600, you can grab that money. The debt set off doesn't really help a lot for your current year because it has to be more than 60 days past due before you can submit. So it really is about the older taxes, not about the current tax year, but it does help. And then, of course, payment arrangements. We have many taxpayers who are paying in January for the next year's tax bill. And we've done everything we can to make it easier. We actually have set up, we can do ACH debit, so we can pull money out of your account automatically with your permission before the taxes are past due. A lot of the seniors, especially a lot of people during COVID who did not want to come in office, asked us to draft it down. So we got that in place. It brings in about $5,000 a month. So that's another great thing. And then, of course, the one that everyone dislikes is foreclosure. About 60% of the properties that we send to a foreclosure attorney gets paid when they get the first letter. So they figure out this is serious. It's going to be expensive. They'll go ahead and pay. We do end up selling some. A lot of them are going to be estate properties that no one really wants to claim. But we do sell quite a bit of property. We've working with a new firm called Kenya. It's not a new firm. We're working with them for about 3 years now. They specialize in tax office foreclosure. They handle about 60 counties in the state. They're based out of Asheville. They charge nothing to the tax office. So it doesn't cost us anything. They add their fees to the foreclosure. During the fiscal year, July to June, they collected $221,000 in back taxes for us. So it's been a great relationship, up from $145,000 the first year and up from $95,000 the very first year. So over the last 3 years, they really have increased what they're doing for us. We actually getting down to where we don't have a lot of property foreclosed on, which is exactly where we want to be. Every time someone pays their taxes, it lowers the tax bill you charge other people. So we try to make sure that everyone pays their fair share, keeps a low tax rate. We talked about the taxes we collect, just property taxes for the county, but there's other things we collect too. And this is not meant to summarize. I don't try to add them up and see if you get the $41 million. But there's things like prepayments where people are paying ahead of time, real estate closings, different collection fees. So your garnishment fees, your advertising fee, put your name in the paper, all kinds of other things there. Stormwater, $285,000. We collect $4.6 million for the city. Just a little bit of everything that we collect. Just to give you some idea that we're not just collecting county taxes, and we collect over $41 million a year. This is my favorite slide, and I guess y'all kind of wonder why this would be my favorite slide. So 11th year installments. So we have a 10-year statute of limitations. We work very hard, as my numbers hopefully represent, showing what we try to do, and we try to collect every dollar we can. So after 11 years, we do have to write some things off. And what we end up writing off for 2011 is 0.07 So we write off 19,978. That started off as $27 million. And when I say we're off 19.9, it's not quite truthful. The $6,708 is what we absolutely have to, it goes away. We can't never touch that. But the county real estate taxes is a little different. I can't force someone to pay it, but you can't pass clear title if it isn't paid. So that 13,000, some of that will get collected. I just can't garnish your paycheck. I can't take your bank account to do it, but that will not all disappear. But 7/100, it represents the 19,000 that we can't force collect anymore, but it's only 7/100 of 1%. So that's something I'm also proud of for sure. Other tax office items, our software now lets us kind of keep track of deceased owners. You wonder why we keep track of deceased owners? Well, that's where a lot of your delinquent taxes are. Because people who passed away, taxes may get paid for the next generation. That's when the grandkids is living in grandma's house. But then 10, 15, 20 years later, they never settled the estate. And now that person's gone. And it's 2 generations deep. We have no idea who owns the property. So foreclosure comes in. The worst one we've ever done had 84 heirs. We had identified what to sell. It took us 2.5 years, but we did take care of it. So we got 218 bills for 2021 that represents $51,000 of deceased owners. And that's not all the deceased owners, just the ones we're aware of. Another thing to keep track of is the 2025 reappraisal. I'm not here to talk about reappraisal a lot today, but just to let you know, we're about 19% low on our values right now. And the fourth year of the reappraisal, if you're more than 10% low, you have to give that same courtesy to your state appraised properties. Meaning if you do not do a 2025 reappraisal and your sales ratio continues to drop, meaning we're going from 80% accurate to 70% accurate, you will have to give the state appraised properties that same discount. Anytime you're below 90, it's going to hit that 2025 year. That's the reason we look at a 2025, a 4-year reappraisal. Now, some of the reports, and I've read a lot of reports on the real estate, I'm sure Commissioner Gentry probably does too in her field. It seems like it may be turning around a little bit, so sales are slowing down nationally, maybe not so much locally, but nationally. So we'll keep an eye on that, and I will be back before you somewhere around January, February to talk about if we wanted to delay, if we can afford to delay or not. The reappraisal cost about $600,000. A 10% loss to do progress, state appraised would cost you about $600,000. A 20% cost you double that. So keep in mind, if we do not do one, the cost to the community. Hopefully we don't have to do one when the market's changing a lot. We like the market to be stable. But at this point, it looks like we will have to do one. But there's many changes happening in the real estate market right now, so we don't know what's happening. Another fun one is gap bills, and I've talked about this before. So anytime you go to DMV and you renew a tag and they change your tag cycle, maybe because your car is broken down or you're sick and weren't driving it, and they don't want you to have to pay that $15 penalty and want you to have a 12-month tag, you create a gap in tax. That gap is billed by my office. And that number has grown every year since they started the tax and tag together back in 2013. So we had 2,300 bills, 2,300 gaps we had to collect. $66,000, and we collected about 50,000 of that. Collection rate of 73%. And that goes back to where motor vehicles were before, when we had 87% collection rate on motor vehicles. We collected it all. The alarming thing about this became law in 2017. And some counties, many counties have chosen not to do it because it's a headache. It's a lot of work for a little bit of money, but it also skews the numbers when I'm comparing my collection rate to someone else's, and they don't bill it at all. It's kind of frustrating. So counties around us, Caswell, Granville, and Durham don't collect this. We do. Durham County, for example, is $250,000 that they choose just not to bill. They used to bill it. They didn't bill it during COVID. Maybe they'll come back. I think they have some staffing challenges. Anyway, that's frustrating to compare against someone who doesn't add it, knowing it's difficult to collect. And we add everything we can because Person County thinks it's fair to everyone to pay their taxes. E-check is something great. If you've ever went to pay your taxes electronically, you realize we have to charge a convenience fee. It's 2.25% on a credit card. If you haven't paid yours with a credit card, you've heard citizens complain about it. It is something that's required by law. We cannot pass that fee on to the county. We have to collect from the taxpayer. But we established ACH, which I talked about earlier. We can do a draft. We do a debit card through the qualified visa is only $3.50. And then this year we added an e-check. E-check costs $1.50 flat rate. And it costs the county nothing for us to put this in place. You're gonna pay 50 cents for a stamp anyway. For $1.50, we'll have the payment immediately. It's much cheaper than a credit card. We're trying to get the word out that we have e-check options. It really is a great option for the taxpayers. Another way to make it easy for them to get the taxes paid. Of course, we do take cash and check too. So that's all I have. Any questions? I know I talk fast, covered a lot of information.
Questions, anyone?
Well done.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Great
Chairman.
job.
Well done.
Very well done, as usual. We appreciate your efforts and the new items there to make it easier for those to pay their taxes. Do we have a motion for approval of this report?
So moved.
Have a motion to accept the report as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Item number 7 is order to collect taxes. Mr. Jones again.
This kind of falls into the same idea of the the collector settlement, you can imagine as an individual, I have no right to take your money or take your bank account, take your paycheck. That right has to be granted by the county commissioners as an actual order to do so. So North Carolina General Statute 105-1 says the governing body must instruct the collector to collect taxes. Need a motion for that.
Do I have a motion here to order tax collections?
So moved.
A motion on the floor. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, none, motion carried. As a joke,
Yes, sir.
I am a victim of identity theft. And someone filed a federal tax return on my behalf. I wonder if they paid my taxes on my behalf. Just a joke. I'm sorry.
The debt set off, just to expand on it a little bit, does not affect federal returns.
I know.
Only North Carolina returns,
Right.
and only if they're delinquent. So I don't think they took care of your taxes, unfortunately. But good luck with that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate everything you and your department do for us. Item number 8 on the agenda is appointment to the Research Triangle Regional Partnership Board of Directors. Ms. Reeves.
It is time for the fiscal year 2023 appointment of the 3 members representing Person County to the Research Triangle Regional Partnership Board of Directors. I would request the board to have nomination as you deem appointment appropriated. Historically, the board has appointed or reappointed the Economic Development Director, the Commissioner Representative serving on the EDC, as well as the Chair of the EDC. So therefore, I am presenting to you Sherry Wilburn, Gordon Powell, and Philip Allen for your consideration and discussion for the appointment to the fiscal year 23 RTRP Board of Directors.
Okay, any questions there? I think that's pretty consistent across the board with other counties for RTRP. It's appointment by title. Is that kind of a?
From what I understand, especially with the Economic Development Director, and yes, there is generally some elected officials as well as citizens serving in those capacities.
Okay.
I really can't speak too much about the board's content, but that's what I understand.
Mhm. Well, when I look across the region and those that are appointed, I pretty much,
Yes,
I
yes,
see
you could
that,
speak to
yeah.
that better than I, yes.
any comments or questions here from board members?
Motion to approve all 3 names.
Have a motion on the floor. Any further questions or comments? All in favor of the motion as stated, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Those motion carried. Item number 9 on the agenda is a request to authorize interim county manager to enter into contract for property survey of the Person County mega site. Director Wilburn.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have
Morning.
need to survey the Person County Mega Park. The option states that the price is per acre. So in order to be able to do future planning and negotiate with projects, we need to know exactly how much acreage is out there. So there are funds in the Economic Catalyst Fund that you all have appointed for EDC discretion to cover this. We did get proposals from 3 surveyors. Those were in your packets. We had a special call meeting of the EDC to evaluate those, and their recommendation was to move forward with Steve Puckett at a cost of $58,400. And I'm here to ask you to authorize our interim county manager to move forward with that contract, as that would be above his authorized amount to enter into a contract.
Okay, board member comments or one? This is another step in the direction of securing that mega site, and we sort of generally need a perimeter survey and not all the bells and whistles of an extended survey. Is that sort of what I'm reading here? We've
That's
got to
right.
identify total number of acres. That's what this is about.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the funding is currently in your coffers, so to speak, but needs support of this board to execute this contract. Is that right?
Yes, sir. We
Okay.
need your authorization to enter into that contract.
Board member comments or questions?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think
Sure.
this is probably about time. I'm just astonished that it's never been done until now.
Agreed.
I'm not poking at anybody. I'm just going, I cannot believe after all these years, we're just now doing a survey. But I'm glad it's finally being done.
Well, if I could speak to that, there's language in the option that allows the landowners at their discretion to allow less land to be sold. And so the approach we've taken thus far is, we don't know if the first end user will need 300 acres, 500 acres, or
Right.
the whole thing. And so we have postponed spending this money because we didn't know, how much we would need to bite off at a time. And now, we have projects that are different land acreages, and we need to have consistency to be able to say this is 20,000 an acre, because in further discussions with the landowners, they have to be involved. It's an added layer. They have to be involved in every project to say, yes, we'll release 300 for this price. Yes, we'll release 500 for that price.
I
So
understand,
in
I
order to have
understand
that-
that. I'm just saying this should have been done long ago. I'm not saying that it wasn't you or anybody else. I'm just saying, in my opinion, it's about time. But it should have been done a long time ago when the agreement was made with the owners. I just can't believe that oversight. Being a real estate professional, I just can't believe that would have happened, but let's not have this happen anymore.
Yes, yes, sir.
So the way I'm reading this, we have no idea, due to the fact of the wetlands. I mean, it's hard to survey a swamp unless you put on waders and get out in it. I mean, I don't,
Well, we have the tax records. We have the legal description. We have a composite survey.
that was done eons ago.
The composite survey was done as a part of our due diligence on the site for getting it certified, but the option requires the land
Oh,
survey.
right, of course, right. Of usable land,
Of the entire site.
wetlands included.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like
Yes,
to
sir.
make the motion, if I could, to authorize the interim county manager to enter into a contract for property survey of the Person County Mega Park.
Have a motion on the floor. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of the motion as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none motion carried.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, reminder to the clerk to have the finance director, as always, fix her pre-audit certification.
Yeah.
This is contract. Surveyors may not understand they need that certification on their contract, but they do.
Thank you for that additional clarity. Item number 10 on the agenda is Person County comments related to Duke Energy Carbon Plan, NC Utilities Commission. Attorney Ellis Hankins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to report that our outside counsel now has filed Person County's comments in the pending North Carolina Utilities Commission proceeding about Duke Energy's carbon reduction plan. That proceeding, you remember, is mandated by statute under legislation that the General Assembly enacted last year. You remember that because of the great significance to Person County of the two existing Duke Energy power generation facilities, not only to Person County's tax base, property tax base, but employment and economy generally in Person County. The board saw fit to authorize us to engage outside counsel and an expert consultant to assist us and our outside counsel in developing these comments. That was done well. Our economic development director was actively engaged with those two folks. We all are very pleased with the quality of the comments that were filed with the Utilities Commission Friday of last week. Comments are 34 pages long. Sent those to you all. I know for a fact that one of you read them because Commissioner Palmer printed out a date typo on page 2, not even on the first page. The comments appear on the county's new improved webpage on the first page. So they're there for anyone who cares to read. We're sending Sherry a press release, I think, today. And so I'm sure there will be a news story. The comments, to summarize them, let me just say this. The comments stress to the commission the importance of the issue overall to Person County, the need for those power plants to remain operating in some form in the future. They are now scheduled to close, in one case as early as the year 2029. The other one probably not long after that. Duke Energy also filed their proposed carbon reduction plan consistent with the legislation. Our comments really were in response to Duke's filing. I'm pleased to say that Person County's comments are very consistent with Duke's apparent approach. We requested in our comments, as I said, that the power plants remain in operation on some basis, most likely, we believe, as natural gas fired electric generation facilities, which means that we need to continue working as actively as we can to make natural gas available for that purpose, not only for those power plants, but for economic development purposes generally in Person County and for the convenience of our residents to secure natural gas for their homes and businesses. I'm going to talk with you all a bit later about some steps that I believe we probably can take with other counties and with other parties to encourage the completion of the Mountain Valley pipeline through Virginia, but then an offshoot of that called MVP Southgate down into North Carolina, not far from Person County, which would make natural gas then with an extension from that available in Person County into potential natural gas fired electric generating facilities. We made the point in our filing that it just makes sense to reduce the carbon footprint. Yes, natural gas also is a fossil fuel, but with much less emission of carbon dioxide than with coal. So that strategy makes sense to accomplish what the General Assembly and EPA have mandated, that conversion to natural gas. It's kind of an intermediate term strategy, intermediate term being probably 30, 40, 50 years of reliance on that natural gas as the technology improves to maybe transition to other ways of generating electricity. So that's the gist of it. That's what we have done to represent our Person County citizens and the Utilities Commission. I'm sure that we'll hear more about this issue overall, probably in the next session of the General Assembly and otherwise. To tell you where the Mountain Valley pipeline and the potential Mountain Valley Southgate pipelines are in the process. You heard the presentation from our outside counsel, Patrick Buffkin, in your last meeting. He mentioned those pipeline proceedings, then told you more later. The Mountain Valley Pipeline through Virginia is mostly complete. Permitted long ago, mostly complete. There still are some remaining permits that the company needs to acquire from the federal regulator. That's the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC. Some of that is hung up in federal court and the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. That's making its way through the process. Happy to tell you that our outside counsel has talked with the attorneys for Mountain Valley Pipeline. That attorney shared with him some things potentially we can do to be helpful in the process. So I want to talk with you all some more about that. There is a regulatory role for a North Carolina state agency in this too, namely the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, the Water Quality Section. The Water Quality Section division has rejected one requested permit for the Southgate pipeline. That issue also is pending in federal court. So we'll get there eventually. There is a potential for Person County to to seek leave of the federal court to file an amicus brief eventually in these pending lawsuits about the pipelines. So we will come back and talk with you all, with the board about that at the appropriate time. So that's where we are. I have more information to share with the board later, but I wonder if there are any questions about anything I've just said or not said.
I think that's a good overview of what's happening because we knew from the very beginning how important these two plants are to Person County and how big the fish it is in our pond, so to speak, and going this route with the expertise of Attorney Buffkin and our attorney is extremely important to us because it is certainly a big item for Person County, not only for tax purposes, but for employment. They've been such an integral part of our economy now for over 6 decades, and going forward, we want to do all we can to keep them here, and the changes that are on the docket right now are important. I think we're in the right route to becoming intervener, and so that they could hear our voice. And in fact, I did attend the Utilities Commission hearing last Tuesday, and none of us would have been allowed to speak if all had gone there, but we did have 2 speakers. Economic Development Chairman Allen spoke, and ex officio member Dr. Barry Hill spoke. And we had one other gentleman, I believe, from possibly Goldsboro, but spoke in favor and the commonsensical approach to keeping these plants open and what it means to Person County. So again, I think we've certainly gone the right way in this process, and I thank our attorney for his involvement and communication with other attorneys here. And so it's an active, ongoing process right now. We want to certainly stay engaged with that for the people of Person County. Have you any other board member comments? Anyone? Yes, sir, please.
In my reading of this report and the presentation that Mr. Buffkin gave several weeks ago, there was mention of leaving 1 or 2 of these plants active but idle for purposing of emergency use until we reach the final resolution on what is going to replace what we have currently. And from my years of experience, if my numbers are correct, these 5 boilers in Person County serve about a quarter of North Carolina, which is a whole lot of land and a whole lot of customers. You're talking about years and years of solar, of nuclear, of windmills to get put in place to take the place of what Person County alone provides to the state. And I take personal pride in helping build the majority of those structures over there. Leaving out Unit 1 and 2 at HICO, but I help with 3 and 4 and Mayo. So I have a personal goal myself to fight this as hard as I can, to get involved as deep as I can, and to provide whatever input that I can to help Person County. I just hope that we can convince the legislators, as you mentioned the other week, that we need a better plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, as I said a moment ago, it's very fluid and active right now. And to some degree, I don't know if anyone actually knows what's going to happen, but the utilities decision and report in orders to Duke Energy are due by the end of the year, by the end of December. A couple of things there may be important. We'll have to sort of watch and see because they are moving right now. And that's a recent Supreme Court decision, as well as some activity about the MVP, is that what it's called, pipeline, as recent as the past few weeks. So we'll have to stay tuned, and I don't doubt any of us aren't in total favor of keeping power generation here in Person County. So we'll continue our efforts there through our attorneys and otherwise, and appreciate everybody's efforts in making that known to whom you come in contact with, from locals to even our and I would say legislature, as well as our state representatives. So any other comments? Okay. All right, thank you. And item number 11, permanent utility easement, Attorney Hankins.
Chairman, you all received some information about this added agenda item. Is simply authorization for execution of a utility easement to allow the city of Roxborough to run their line as they need to on property now owned by the North Carolina Department of Transportation. So nothing unusual about it, and certainly recommend your authorization.
Question, board members?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a moment, no, excuse me, make a motion that we enter into this agreement for the easement access city of Roxborough.
Have a motion to approve the request as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, motion carried. We have a closed session number 1. A request here, closed session to abide by General Statute 143, 318, 11A4, as stated in your packet with the following.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry.
Point of order. We
Point
have to
of order.
proceed with the chairman's report and manager's report, along with the
Okay.
commissioner's reports before proceeding with closed session.
All right, that's fine. Again, we've done it both ways. Yeah, we will go with the report. I did want to mention, as I previously stated, our attendance and support there at the Utilities Commission a meeting which I think was revealing, as we heard. We do have quite a task in front of us, but I think we are having our voice heard, and I want to proceed with that. And the other thing I would like to comment on is our interim managers joining us in county business, and Mr. Clark has jumped right in the middle of the ocean here, so to speak, and responded very well and knowledgeably from his expertise. So again, I commend you.
Thank you, sir.
Any comments?
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about what I've done over the last 3 weeks. I've made time available, hopefully, to meet with each of you. I hope it's been fruitful. I only have one that I haven't met with, but I think the rest we had pretty genuine conversations. And I mentioned that I had met with all. I've got one department head still remaining to meet with, just to try to get a general feel of what's going on here, what the needs are, and how I fit in. So that's been my goal. But one of the most important things I've learned is the lease that you have on the DSS and the health department building, and trying to dig into that and understand, because that was a huge conversation in some of these meetings. And I have, at least looked into it, and I've got an understanding of it. The thing that's important today is that lease expires in 2 years. And the conversation that we have to have somewhere is, if you want to go relocate from that building, it's going to take a full 2 years at least to get another facility. So trying to bring that to your attention. And also it has renewal clauses in the lease, and it has a purchase in the lease. And say the purchase, the renewal, the lease refers to the building as a premise. But when it starts talking about the purchase price, it starts talking about the shopping center. And that's interpreting to me that they would want to sell the whole complex, and I'm not sure what your interests are there. Other than that, I've kind of gone through, and some of the things that I'll note is that I've learned in my meetings with department heads. One, I found that you've got a number of pretty long-term employees here. You saw one retire today, but in one morning I had 4 department heads to tell me they either were contemplating retirement soon, or either they had all the years in for retirement. And probably a concern that we ought to look into even more. And I think the fire marshal is well on track to kind of looking into the future of what's going on there. I've looked into the power plants and tried to envision some of the problems, but I'm not. That's a subject way deeper than I'm going to be allowed to do. And I had in my contract with you, you stated that I had a 30-hour max week. And if you can get a grasp, you have another meeting in a couple of weeks. That's going to be a nighttime meeting. Well, if I'm here the 4 days, and put the nighttime meeting in, where do you get the hours from? And just to kind of clarify that, it's not that I'm trying to make more hours, or I'm trying to get out of anything. I'm just trying to be sure that I comply with your terms. And if you have some suggestion how we do that, I'd like to hear it. And the final thing that I have is, I don't know if you've read your ad, but today is a day that your recruiter is starting the review process of the applicants. So you should be hearing something probably before the end of the week, a little bit about what they got in the first round, and get at least an update there. So, but other than that, that's all I have, sir.
To add to that, I did speak with Renee last week, just general conversation, and she says she will give us an updated report at our next meeting. Had 16 applicants.
Pretty good.
As of last week, and she'll bring that information to us prior to the deadline, but on course, projected maybe October filling of that position. So that's good. In regards to your contract and timing, I've spoken with board members and generally, I think that's something we can handle very easily. Let's not make it more complicated than it should be.
Wasn't trying to get it complicated.
So I don't know how you folks feel about it, but I think it's pretty simple. If he works 2 hours over today, he can take 2 hours off tomorrow. Pretty simple. Or some kind of suggestion from someone else. And yeah, if that's okay, generally, and he'll keep our clerk abreast of what's going on there. So we're all above board and transparent.
Yeah, and more than likely, if I worked over in a week, I would probably take the 2 hours off since I have a pretty good drive to get home. So on the Thursday, but other than that, I just want to be sure everyone understands.
Right. And I appreciate you doing and saying that. That's great.
But it's been an interesting 3 weeks, I can tell you.
No, you've handled it well, and we appreciate your efforts. That's why we brought you here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sims,
I have no comment.
Commissioner Palmer.
Where do I start at?
Jump in the middle.
I would like to just say thank you for coming on board, for helping Person County, for going out of your way. And your 2 or 3 different lodges that you live out of, your driving time. I know you can contribute to our immediate approach to items at hand because of your years of experience. So welcome to Person County. And, we thank you for coming.
Thank you. And it's my pleasure to do this. If I didn't enjoy doing these things, I wouldn't do them, but I get to meet a lot of new people. Hopefully I'll bring some knowledge, experience with me. So hopefully I'm a real benefit to you too. Thank you.
Mr. PJ.
Commissioner PJ's fine now. Mr. Clark, we are very delighted that you're here, and I have no comments, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Verdier.
Echo the comments, glad to have you here, and no further remarks.
Please. Yes, sir.
Maybe we'll out of line, but we are actually doing a training tomorrow. I'd like to invite y'all to. It's a rapid response training. Everything's going on in schools. We just keep our skills sharp. This is not anything new. We actually did a big operation called Operation Bad Apple back in 2007 or 8. We continuously train every year. And this is definitely was planned way before the deal in Texas. But if any of y'all interested and would like to, if you want to come to a community school tomorrow morning at 8:30, we're actually doing some exercises today, but it's going to be a full-scale exercise tomorrow. I'm very proud to say that since Columbine, when I went through SWAT training back in the mid-90s, our high school, to do it properly, was a 6-hour search. After Columbine, after the first mass school shooting, that same size school was mandated to be done in 15 minutes. And ever since that has happened, we have trained on that every year. We've used every school. Schools have been great to work with, all of them. We do it here in the county office buildings, but listening to what is happening in other counties and other states, I am very proud of Person County. I'm very proud of our law enforcement here. We are way ahead of the game. And I tell them every time we go to do one of these trainings, I'd rather train 1,000 times and never use it once, but always to be prepared. But y'all are welcome to come and watch. Any other department heads, we really can't open it up to the public, but y'all are more than welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate your efforts. And I remember the first time you did that, and results were good and continues to be in something we need to keep on a front burner every day, because you never know when something's going to happen. Thank you very much. Now, closed session number 1. As I stated earlier, with statute 143-318-11A4, and those requested to attend or County Attorney Ellis Hankins, Interim Manager Ralph Clark, Clerk to the Board Brenda Reeves, Economic Development Director Sherry Wilborn. Do we have a motion to go into closed session number 1?
So moved.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, motion carried. We'll take about 5 minutes to get everybody situated.